Hi everyone, I'm Stevie Alders. I'm a sales executive with iCrimeFighter. I cover the great state of Texas, and I just want to thank everyone for taking the time this morning to join us for our webinar on digital evidence management here in Texas. I have a few people that I want to introduce with us this morning from Orange County. From the Orange County's DA's office, I have Crispin Walker and Stacy Neely. And then we also have Dylan Mulholland from the Orange Police Department. So thank you guys for joining this morning. So I also have on this call Jason Brovich, and I will go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Perfect. Thanks, Stevie. Jason Brovich, the Chief Sales Officer here at iCrimeFighter. Appreciate everybody joining the call today, especially Orange County and Orange County Police Department jumping on here to share some input of what you guys have experienced in some of the process of finding hopefully a good solution that you guys are sharing some good feedback here. So what I'd like to do is, obviously, I'm going to do a presentation of the solution here in a moment. But I thought, as we're always looking at solutions that exist for the government space, there's a process that we have to go through with researching and so forth. But sometimes it's nice to go, if somebody found something that worked, it's nice to hear that feedback. And so what I'd like to do is kind of open it up to the folks at Orange County. I'm going to just ask a few questions and let them share their feedback. And then we'll kind of go on with the presentation of the product. So once again, just thanks for being here. But what I'd like to do, as always, as we're looking for a solution to kind of solve the pain of large files and, the old way of doing it, Stacy and Crispin and Dylan, I'll get to you as well. But I'd like to just learn a little bit about what your old process was before you found a solution. If maybe you guys could just take a moment and kind of talk us through what that looked like.
Sure. The system that we had was something that our IT department made for us. It was only compatible with Windows Media Player. And then after everyone knew it was Windows Media Player, then they switched to MP4. And so we were always getting discs that were not compatible. They were too large. It took up too much space on our server. It slowed everything down. So we were going back and forth, and it was just terrible.
Another thing too is we have about, and Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe around 10 agencies that submit cases.
At least.
Yes. So we have about at least 10 local agencies that submit cases to us for intake. And so previously we were, all those were being submitted in paper. So somebody from the agency would have to come in and bring all the cases. And then of course they would bring the videos, the CDs and the DVDs and that sort of thing, which eventually did become a problem because of I guess changes that had been made. So it was it was a paper process. There was a lot of space that's taken up by all these paper files, and so
and a lot of time in between it going back and forth. They had to come up here and get the DVD and then take it back and try to fix it and bring it, and the back and forth took a long time, and we were dealing with a massive amount of cases. I average about 2,500 a year of new cases. That's not the resubmittals, that's just the new ones. So it's quite time consuming.
And then Stacy was when we got the paper intake and the attorneys charged the cases, then Stacy and the others in the office would have to scan all that paper. So, a lot of the agencies have all their, reports and everything electronic. So they were printing it, they'd have to print it and then bring it to us, and then we'd review it, and then it was rescanned again. So it was a lot of double work, really.
Yeah,
that was going on. So when we started, and I was kind of worried about how it was going to work at first, and if we could get everybody online at the same time. And sure enough, Stacy basically said, okay, this is the date. Everybody has to submit their cases electronically from now on.
Yep.
And it's been great
Beautiful.
since then. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're still in the learning process, but it's I believe an improvement.
We started mid-July. I mean, August, we were fully online.
So I want to hone in on something, you guys, and I'm going to get to another question, but I think one of the struggles, I think in a lot of counties, I mean, it sounds like the pain point that you guys came from is very similar to a lot of these counties that, you know, are on the call, but obviously that we talk to on a daily basis. How did you get everybody on board? You know, I know we have law enforcement in here. I'm going to talk to them in a second, but how did you find a solution and then be able to kind of spread it out to everybody to go, hey, we're going to use this? How did that conversation go?
I mean, this is how we're gonna do it.
Right, pretty
I mean, we
much.
don't really give them a choice. I mean, if they want their cases to go move forward, they had to submit it this way, or we weren't gonna move forward with it. We weren't gonna accept the cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it hasn't been a problem. I mean, of course, we
Now,
sent
I mean,
out,
we were nice about it,
Right.
but
I believe I sent out emails, you know, to the different, you know, each one of the different agencies and tried to get a point person from each of those agencies. And then, you know, we kind of everybody got on board that way, and they were, you know, pretty receptive for the most part. I think everybody was like, okay, we can do
Yeah.
this. It'll, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, change is scary, but once they saw what we were doing and how user friendly the program is, I mean, they jumped on board. They really didn't have a problem with it, and they really liked it.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Makes
Okay.
things simpler for everyone. It wasn't just for our benefit. They benefited from the change.
Yeah. No, it's just I wanted to hone in on that because it's sometimes when you have a lot of moving parts and a lot of people to interact with, it's sometimes a challenge to get a census that, hey, this is a good solution moving forward. Here, let me Dylan, if you are in a good spot, I just had a question for you. So like before, when you were submitting your cases to the prosecutor's office, you know, we kind of heard some of the pain points just now, flash drives, CDs, and some of the stuff like that. Like, how is one things changed? But kind of walk us through. Is that correct? How you guys were doing things in the past too with submitting cases, and how was that? How did that process work?
Yeah, so we'd get our case information, and we would have to print everything out. So it could be, you know, some cases would be 20 pages, some would be 500. No matter what, you know, we were printing those out. Then we get our IT department to make DVDs of, you know, body cam, patrol vehicle camera, security footage, anything like that. They put on DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, if we had assistance from other agencies, then we'd have to go to that agency, and they do the same thing, print all their stuff out, make their DVDs, and then we put all that into a packet. And our day was Thursday. Every Thursday of the week, someone from our division would walk over there and submit all the cases. So, you know, sometimes that could be 30 minutes, sometimes that could be an hour, just depending on how many cases we had.
Sure. Okay. Did you guys have any pushback? I mean, did you see the value right away?
Well, you know, it's one of those things where it was it was a change.
Yep.
And especially in law enforcement, change is silly sometimes that we think. So it's just to figure, you know, they say, hey, this is what we're doing. So you got to get on there. We were calling Stacy every 30 minutes trying to figure stuff out. But yeah, once we got, which we're still working through it, there's still stuff we're trying to figure out. But yeah, once we started figuring everything out, how to you know, make the folders, put everything in there ourselves, it has gotten simpler.
Okay, good. No, that's the number one thing we hear, to be honest with you, across the board is it's the change, right? Nobody likes change, especially if they don't know why the change is needed. So, okay, no, I appreciate you sharing that feedback. I do want to get to a demo. So here's a real quick question. Is you guys were referred from another county and you did your research, obviously. What kind of stuff were you looking for? I mean, obviously you just talked about the pain, but what were some of the stuff that you were looking for to solve in this new solution? And then I'll get into a demo.
Well, I think probably the main thing that was the driving force was the DVDs and the, you know, that issue that we were having, because we were having complaint after complaint after complaint from the defense lawyers who they couldn't watch this video and this wasn't working. And so that was really slowing the process down tremendously. And then they would go complain to the judge. Well, the DA's office, you know, the DVDs aren't working, and, you know, and so I need extra time with my case. And, you know, and then the judges were getting mad and, you know, wanting us to give out DVDs, which we were not going to do. We were not, you know, they were going to have to access them electronically because we want that record of exactly what they're getting. And, you know, we can tell if they reviewed it or not, you know, through our old discovery, we could do that. But that was a huge problem. So that was kind of the driving force. We had for years been interested in getting electronic intake from the agencies. So, you know, still kind of, it's much improved. I like it a lot better. I mean, there's still a few things that, you know, that we're working through to, you know, on that end, but I like it. You know, it's been, I think, a plus. It's been better.
Now, the driving force for me was getting it digital so that it wouldn't be redundant for the officers to have it digital and then to print it out and then I have to upload it. It's just a waste of time to do it that way. It was archaic, you know, it was, you know, this brought us into the future.
Good. Yeah, well, you know, you just hit on it. Government hates change, but they definitely don't like doing the same thing twice. So 100% agree. So let's do this. I know you ladies and Dylan, you have some other things to say here, but I want to get into a demo and just kind of give you guys a snapshot, or the folks that are on here, a snapshot of how the product works. And then I'll just, you know, we'll kind of wrap it up at the end and see what else you guys would like to say. So as I'm talking about the iCrimeFighter solution, we are a cloud-based solution. We're hosted on the Amazon GovCloud. One thing they keep in mind is some areas of concern that everybody always thinks about when they're looking for solutions is it secure? We're SOC 2 compliant, we're CJIS compliant, we're also HIPAA compliant as well. We follow all the state and federal guidelines for security. And that's kind of how we're hosted on why we're hosted on the Amazon GovCloud. So I want to kind of take you through. So as we're talking about the sharing component and getting files from point A to point B, I think it's worth to talk about just how it's set up. So iCrimeFighter is really set up in a way that everybody has their own account. It's just a matter of what is being seen by the other parties in order for them to, you know, get in there and look at cases and so forth. And so when I log into the iCrimeFighter solution, you'll see here we have 3 different areas of focus, right? So we have all cases, everything in my agency. Now keep in mind, the law enforcement folks are the collectors ones. We always think of 3 different ways. We think about the collecting, the storage, and the sharing. They're the ones that start these cases and kind of build them with their body cam, squad videos, and all that sort of stuff. We have our shared cases. Those are the cases that we're sharing to the prosecutors. It doesn't need to stop there because I'm going to pause in a little bit and talk about the collaboration piece that I think is huge for not only sharing to our prosecutors, but also sharing amongst other law enforcement agencies. And then my cases are just cases that we have out there under your individual name. Now, keep in mind, we have some tools for law enforcement that allow them to collect in the field that can be added at any point, but there's some apps and so forth that can go on smartphones for collecting. I'm not going to get into that today, but just know that some of that stuff can streamline the process a little bit more for the law enforcement side to be able to collect their stuff while they're in the field. But as these cases are kind of teed up and everything is put into the case, basically then it comes to sharing it and kind of going through it. So I'm just going to kind of log into a case here that's already been set up. I'll show you up here. We can search by case name, case number, court case number, date range search. We can also develop case fields. So we might only want to see certain stuff like, you know, maybe it's a description, maybe it's court case number, maybe it's the defendant's name. We can apply that, and that field then will show up for the user that has that setting. It doesn't need to be across the board. So you can see we have a case right here. So I'm going to open this up. Now, the one thing about it is government folks are using this and they don't like change. We got to keep it easy. We got to keep it used to their old workflow in a sense. And what I mean by that is just what they're used to going to, the folder structure. You can kind of see iCrimeFighter kind of breaks that down as, hey, here's all your videos, here's your photos, your court documents, everything's kind of broken down. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is all these files, what we're trying to do is we're trying to essentially put this in a fashion that you can view it, you can watch it, you can listen to it, you can read it. Now, there will be these cases that you have to download just because, but we're getting to a spot where less is better, right? We don't want somebody to go in here and have to download these cases every single time. So this is just kind of a snapshot of kind of what the case looks like. Now, I want to kind of fast forward to going, okay, now that law enforcement, has teed this up, let's say, and has built this case, how do they share it to the prosecutor's office? Now, as I said before, everybody is kind of teed up and linked to each other. And so we have this collaborator feature. I'm just going to click on this and open this up for you. Basically, we share with the folks in our agency, or in our county, I'm sorry. So for instance, when I need to share this case, I simply flip the switch. Now, I can share amongst other folks within my county. Maybe it's a law enforcement, maybe it's health and human services, but that's all I need to do. Now, before, if we get back to the old way, we're talking about CDs and DVDs. So if law enforcement has to go share some new photos, they have to burn another disk. And then Thursday or Friday, whatever the day may be, they have to walk down there and deliver it. Now, all they have to do is flip the switch. Anything that new goes into that existing case, that party automatically gets notified that says, hey, there's new files up here. There's new body cam videos or whatever out there, and so forth. And that's how the process works. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is all this information is going to be tracked. So I think it's worth noting that some of our parties that we send information to sometimes say they don't receive it. That is no longer the case that we have to worry. Well, we can still worry about it, but we at least know it happened. So the case history keeps track of views, it keeps track of downloads, who I collaborated with, and so forth. And for all the different parties that are involved in building this case, you can have a list of names. So if the prosecutor's office has to go back and say, hey, I need to know who took this photo, they can click on the name and go, hey, it's this individual that took that item. So that case history is all broken down for everything. Now, it's also worth noting that we're going to have to collect stuff from outside sources eventually. What I mean by that is a lot of times in most states, State Patrol, because they're a state entity, it's just they play in a different sandbox, and that's fine. How do we collect items from them if they're on a different system? Well, simple. We can come up here and we can go use this evidence anywhere. Basically, this allows me to put a name and a name in here and an email address, and basically allows me to share this invite with them to allow them to collaborate with me. So keep in mind, they're not actually seeing anything. They're just basically getting access to invite and put the body cam in, squad video, whatever it may be. So I just invited myself. I can then go ahead and upload something to the case in here. The next really phase of this is sharing with other parties like defense attorneys and also open records request. And so we have a file share component, and I want to show you. So we can come in here. So let's say the case is ready to go to the defense attorney, or it's an open records request, and you guys may want to share everything by selecting all, or you might want to restrict certain items for whatever reason. So I can do that. I can come up to file share, and I can share by email. So what this is going to do is this is going to allow the user to share this and give an access point to whoever they want to. They do not need an iCrimeFighter account to make this happen. So I can put in here, I can say, hey, this expires, obviously next year, and I can hit next and hit send. This is just a reference point. Just keep in mind, this is not actually sending a link. It's sending more of an access area for them to see it. So now that I sent that, I want to display this real quick for you guys to see it. So if I'm a defense attorney, or if it's open records request, I can actually come into my account. Well, maybe. Let me click here real quick. You know what? Never mind. So there is another, basically there's a login portion that they go into, and they can basically access those files. So if you have a defense attorney that uses the system and you share all the time, they're going to have all their list of cases listed there for them to see. So you don't have to have multiple logins and so forth for that. So that's just kind of how we share the information back. And I just want to quickly just kind of move over to this share case component. So this is really the dashboard that I would say the receiving end would see. This will display the information that you want to display. Obviously, if you want to see multiple fields or less fields, you guys can set that up. But you can see we have the court case or the case number. If I want to apply the court case number, I can go ahead and do that as well. That'll list here in a second. We got a description, we could have agency. So I can go ahead, you know, one of the known problems is a lot of times is where did this information come from? So if we're using CDs and DVDs, a lot of times that information shows up on the desk, maybe has a sticky envelope or a sticky thing on it. And basically it could get lost. We don't know. So this will track all that information for those parties as well. So the big thing as you're looking at this, and I kind of went through this kind of a streamlined process, you know, be very cautious of your guys' time, but it needs to bring value, right? So the thing you need to think about is, what are my pain points now? We've heard from Orange County, you know, law enforcement side, we've heard from the prosecutor side. It's fixing a workflow, but it's got to bring the value. And so be thinking about that. And, you know, obviously we can set up a time to kind of go more in depth with your agency, but that's kind of a snapshot of the iCrimeFighter solution. So maybe what I'll do is I'll open it back up to Orange County District Attorney's Office. And is there anything else you ladies would like to share about just, you know, maybe your experience of the support side during this process as well?
Yeah, the support has been unbelievable. If I have a question or a problem, you know, I email Jason Max and he is on top of it. I can't think of anything that he has not been able to help me with, and it's in a timely manner. It's been wonderful, the support. I didn't get that here with our IT department, so that's a plus. That's absolutely a plus.
Yeah. Max, do you have just a few words that, you know, you guys, you run the whole support team. Do you just want to go through real quick and just that process of all those, how those tickets come in, how we kind of handle them? I think it's always good to hear kind of what life looks like after the sale, because, you know, nobody wants to get into a spot where they bought a great product, but they don't get the support. So Max, go ahead. And
yeah, sure. You know, I was just thinking, there's two things that we hear, you know, the most often for feedback. The one is iCrimeFighter is so easy to use. And the second is, thank you for not making us wait 2 weeks for a response. And that's really our attitude, our policy. We don't want you waiting to, you know, you might have an in custody or need something for court. We want to get an answer to you as quickly as possible.
yeah, no, that's perfect. No, that's exactly what everyone wants to hear. Who am I going to call when something goes wrong? Because just something's going to happen. It might be a user error, but something's going to happen. Is there anything else you would say to a new agency looking at this, like just any thoughts that you guys want to share or anything else that maybe I missed that you would like to share as we kind of wrap this up?
Sure. It works exactly the way that y'all said it would. The main issue about having it digital and the ease of it is wonderful. I have been tweaking some things, but they're minor problems really, and you know, just doing the workflow and stuff. And I know when we viewed this program in Jasper, I had a lot of questions. Well, how's this going to work, and how's that going to work? And I've been able to utilize the court case number, and like on your list here, I see the court case number is blank, and that means that I haven't touched it yet. And then whenever I put in our DA number, that means that I have touched it and I'm waiting on the attorney. And then I will also use that court case number to let the agency, to let myself know and the agency, hey, I'm missing the CR 43 or I'm missing the intake sheet. And I'll put that in that field just to keep me on track and organized, that what I've done with that case. And then once it goes and gets accepted and filed in the clerk's office, I'll give it the actual court case number. And so that's how I'm dealing with the workflow, and it's working wonderfully.
Perfect. Great. No, I appreciate the feedback and so forth.
I did want to touch on another point too. Whenever you were talking about the evidence anywhere, it's not just useful for the other agencies or to add into the case. Like you said, they were outside of they weren't in our agency, so we could share it to them. It's also useful to send that to like the victim or a witness. Hey, I know you got pictures on this, and we send that link and they're able to upload, and they don't have to come in or anything else either, because the victims move, witnesses get scattered, you know, so it's been very timely in getting those things added to the case that we normally might have lost.
No, that's great. Mention there. Yeah, no. Well, and the thing is, anytime you can retrieve stuff from folks remotely and just kind of keep everything together is a good thing. So no, thanks for sharing that. Anything else you guys would like to share? Okay. No, appreciate your time. Dylan, is there anything that I know one of the things that I heard earlier just about maybe the collaboration piece, I think you guys are having pretty good success, maybe driving less miles and less time waiting in departments that have maybe a body cam that you need to get from them or vice versa. Do you just want to share anything that's working there for you?
Yeah, so far that's my favorite thing about the system. Just simply, we're just calling each other. So if a neighbor agency needs something from me, they call,
Yeah.
say, hey, I need one of your officers was there. I need body cam footage in the supplement. I get my IT guy to input the body cam footage into the iCrimeFighter system. I give him the number. He does it himself. I get the supplements, add them in there. I don't have to print anything out. Don't have to go anywhere to deliver anything. Just all on the computer to make it way simpler.
Yeah, I want to add one thing too, is, sometimes when we're reviewing the case and, if I see that there's a statement missing or, or something like that, that has, streamlined that process, because instead of making a note on paper, then it has to go back to Stacy, then Stacy puts it in the computer, and then whenever the agency comes once a week to pick up to deliver their new cases and then pick up the old ones, that's time that's ticking. So now I can just create a note. Hey, I need a statement from so-and-so, and so it goes directly to the submitting officer. And so that's really, and they can get on it right away. So that's really helped as far as kind of cutting down on time.
Yeah. What normally used to take 2 or 3 weeks is now within 24 hours, basically.
Typically. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot quicker.
I love it. Anytime you can save time is the number one goal, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody sharing feedback. I'm going through the process, and hopefully everybody that's on the call that has never seen this product sees the value, and we can work with you on an individual basis to go from there. So, Stevie, I'll turn it back to you. I didn't know if you had anything else to say before we wrap this up, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Once again, thanks everybody for coming on the call.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing that demo, Jason. Orange County, thank you guys for being on here. It's been a pleasure working with you. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we really appreciate it. Let us know if there's anything we can help you with.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.